Yes, guys, welcome back to 11 Yanks Breakdown, where we discuss all things USMNT. I'm Pete Douthit, and today we are talking about the US El Salvador game that finished 6-0. So like I said, the score ended up 6-0, with 5 goals coming in the first half and only 1 goal coming in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are saying we can't take a lot from this game because El Salvador were so bad. I disagree. I think there's a lot we can take from this game. We can take a look at how our depth players performed against this opposition, because we're going to be facing a lot of CONCACAF opposition, and a lot of guys on this team are Olympic and Gold Cup guys. So it was interesting to see how they performed and how they would manage under Gregg's new system. We can also take a look at how we took advantage of how El Salvador set up and how we attacked them and how we were able to be so effective in the first half and take lessons from that for the future. And we can also look at players that didn't even look good against El Salvador. Before we get into it, guys, though, smash that like button if you haven't already. If you're not subscribed, guys, smash subscribe. We got new videos every week. Here we go. So this was very much a game of two halves, and I know that sounds kind of cliche to say, but it's true. And it wasn't based so much on what we were doing as the USMNT, it was based on what El Salvador were doing. When the game started, I was actually shocked to see El Salvador playing with a very high line. Now, when you're going to play with a very high back line, that's usually because you want to compress space in the middle of the field and make it difficult for us to play through them. The problem is they weren't really doing that. There was no high press, our midfielders had way too much time and space on the ball, and we completely killed them. Playing a back line is dangerous already, but if you're going to play a back line and you're not going to put enough pressure on the ball in midfield, it is going to be a disaster, and it was. Mueller gets 2 goals, Arriola gets a goal. It was good to see him do that on the comeback. Sebastian Lletget gets a cute little chip that was kind of deflected. Akinola slides one home. But it wasn't just the way El Salvador were playing, it was the way that we took advantage of it. Now, in the Panama game and the Wales game, we saw our outside wingers playing very narrow and pinching inside. We also saw our number 9 coming very deep to get involved with hold-up play. But in this game, we didn't see that. Arriola and Mueller stayed mostly wide, and Akinola stayed high up the field to take advantage of the space in behind the El Salvadorian back line. They didn't come narrow to try to get too involved in the play. Mueller would come narrow sometimes, but only when he was making those diagonal runs in behind, which is exactly what you want. They basically said we're going to give Aronson and Lletget and Julian the space they need in midfield by staying high, staying wide, stretching that back line, and it worked to a T, guys. This is what I was saying after the Wales game. We don't need to play so narrow, and we don't need to play so deep. Let's make the opponent's lives difficult by having 3 guys wide and high and constantly making their back line turn and run. This verticality was one of the things that allowed us to be successful, and I want to see more of it in March when we get the full team together. Heck, I want to see more of it in January when we have another camp. Rumors of a Canada game in January, but we'll talk about that in another video. Now, in that first half, there were some performances that was really good to see. Mark McKenzie had 4 or 5 excellent line-breaking passes. It was really good to see. Sebastian Lletget was pretty much running that attack from the number 10 position. His creativity, his instinct, his skill, his technique, his understanding of space, he was running it. Julian was quarterbacking the entire game. He had the time and the space to do it. Mueller and Arriola were both very good. Akinola did get his goal. But other than that, he didn't get too involved in the build-up play, which is fine because that probably wasn't his job. He was being asked to stretch the back line, but he was quiet. He wasn't as effective as some of the other players. Aronson was frustrating for me because he would make interesting runs into certain channels to receive the ball, and then when he would receive it, he would either dally too long on the ball, or he would not be able to find the final pass or progress the attack at all. And that's kind of been Aronson's problem for me, is that for an attacking midfielder, he lacks that incisiveness. He lacks that ability to penetrate, to get in behind, and to really be goal dangerous. I know he can do it in Philly. The question is, can he do it at a higher level? We'll see what happens when he goes over to Salzburg, but I was not that impressed with Aronson. Long was fine. He did his job. Julian Araujo was very good. Getting up and down the field, had a nice cross to Mueller for one of the goals, was a solid lockdown defensively, especially in that first half. And Sam Vines was excellent. Vines was one of the reasons that Mueller could make those hard diagonal runs in behind, because Vines was stretching it wide. I really wish Vines had stayed on for the second half. Speaking of the second half, El Salvador figured out what they were doing wrong, and they decided to make our lives more difficult. The first thing they did in the second half was they compressed the space between their back line and their front line. So it wasn't about where they played their line so much, It was more about going, look, if we're going to have our back line play so high, we have to make sure we're putting a lot of pressure on the ball. And they did that a lot better. And when they dropped that line back, they were very compact and they allowed very little space between the lines, which made it difficult for us to play through the lines like we had been doing before. Now, that wasn't the only reason we sort of stopped attacking effectively in the second half. It was also that Gregg Berhalter took off some of the elements that were doing so well in the first half. Sam Vines was replaced with Marco Farfan, who was not good, and I'm not surprised that he hasn't been able to earn a starting spot over at Portland, and he's already 22 years old. Kellyn Acosta came on, Djordje Mihailovic came on, Sebastian Lletget and Paul Arriola came off. So not only were they putting pressure on us and making it difficult for us to find space, we also lost a lot of the guys that were very good at finding space and guys that were very good at making their lives difficult and making those hard runs. A wrinkle, though, that I thought was quite interesting was that before Sebastian Lletget came on, he made a little tactical adaptation to basically adapt to what was happening on the field. He saw that El Salvador was putting a lot of pressure on Jackson Yueill and making it difficult for him to receive the ball. So he would basically switch with Jackson Yueill, and when Bill Hamid or one of the defenders had the ball, you saw Sebastian Lletget coming deep because he had time and space to receive it, whereas Jackson Yueill didn't. It's this ability to recognize what is going on the field and adapt to it that I think makes Sebastian Lletget such a good midfielder. He's intelligent, he's technical, and I think he should definitely continue to be involved with the top 23 roster. Guys, I want to talk about these three guys, Marco Farfan, Djordje Mihailovic, and Kellyn Acosta. Why were they there? They don't offer us anything. They're not going to be involved with the Gold Cup. Maybe Mihailovic and Farfan are going to be with the Olympics, but I just don't think they really offer anything. Cole Bassett sat on the field. He was one of the best American midfielders in MLS this season, and I really would have wanted him to get more time. But overall, I thought this was a really good game. We got to see a lot of guys who are going to be good depth pieces, guys who are going to be involved with the U23s, with the Olympics, with the Gold Cup. I liked it a lot, and I hope we see more guys in January who will be available. But guys, we're developing depth. Injuries happen. Players lose form. 2021 is going to be an insane schedule. We're going to have 3 World Cup qualifying games in every window. We're going to need depth. We're going to need quality at all positions. We're going to need to be deep. And games like this showed us that we do have some good quality in depth. All right, let's talk about some player ratings here, and I'm going to go through these very quickly without a huge amount of explanation. Bill Hamid was a 7. He didn't have a ton to do. His passing was not great. It's just not his thing, guys. He doesn't look comfortable with the ball at his feet. He found his targets, but oftentimes the ball was too slow. You can just tell it's not what he's good at. Julian Araujo mostly had a very solid game. He gets an 8. He did have that one stray pass straight to an El Salvadorian player in the box, which caused the shot on goal. But other than that, he was really excellent. I think he goes to the Olympics with us. Aaron Long continued to show how dominant he is. He was fine with his feet. He wasn't Mark McKenzie. He wasn't playing line-breaking passes. But he was solid, dependable, reliable, a good captain on the day. And for now, he is probably still our partner with John Brooks. McKenzie, 9 out of 10. He was really, really good. Not only a lockdown defender, but helping to quarterback the game with his passing. He's a guy who I think should be John Brooks' replacement instead of Tim Ream going forward. He is only going to get better, and here's hoping for a European move for him. Sam Vines, with only 45 minutes, really impressed me. Getting up the field, making it difficult, taking advantage of the wide space when Chris Mueller cut inside. And that was good to see. I really wish he played the second half. Mueller, 8 out of 10. Now, some people might think that should be higher if you get 2 goals and 2 assists, but he did fade a little bit in that second half. It wasn't entirely his fault, but he struggled to get in behind and adapt to what El Salvador were doing. That's fine. It's his first game. He'll probably be involved with the U23s going forward. Sebastian Lletget, my man of the match, 9 out of 10. Completely dominated that midfield, dominated the attack. His intelligence, his ability to connect dots, his ability to move off the ball, his skill. He really offers a lot to this team. Brenden Aaronson, like I said, did not look good in this game. Even his goal in the second half, he took so much time and space and he still couldn't get a good shot off. It had to be deflected to go in. I think that Aaronson is probably a little bit overhyped, but I'm glad to see him going to Europe, and hopefully he will learn a lot from Jesse Marsch. After 9 months on the sidelines, Paul Arriola came back with a goal and an excellent performance. Like I said, he's never going to be a world-class winger, but he's going to be a hard worker. He's going to be one of those guys that understands the system to play in, understands how to stay wide. He may continue to be with the U23s. I personally don't know if he should be, but Gregg Berhalter likes him a lot, and I wouldn't hate it. Akinola was quiet for most of this game, but he did do the job of stretching the back line as he was supposed to, got the goal when he deserved it, and actually played well when he was shunted out wide to play on the right wing when Sebastian Soto came on. Jackson Ewell quarterbacked that game. When he had time and space, he was really, really good. And even when they pressed him, I thought he was fine about making the short, simple passes and not always trying to go with the long diagonal or the through ball. But overall, I thought it was a good game. It'll be interesting to see him and Johnny Cardoso fight it out to be Tyler Adams' backup. Soto was fine. He was quiet. The main problem with him was he wasn't getting a whole lot of service. He's not a forward who's going to come deep and try to get involved in the play. He's the guy who's going to stretch the back line. He's a poacher. He's going to finish. He's going to be in the right place at the right time. Acosta, Mihailovic, and Farfan, I've spoken about this. They were part of the reason we sort of faded in the second half. They were just not good. They don't offer a whole lot to this team. I didn't really see the point of bringing them on. So they get 5, 5, and 6 respectively. I'm not going to rate Walker Zimmerman and Kyle Duncan because they came on for limited amounts of time. But there's your player ratings. Thanks for watching, guys. This was awesome. A huge shout out to all of our Patreons who continue to support this channel, who make it possible for me to make these videos every week. You guys are awesome. Everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments. I will respond, and I will see you next week.